I'm Adam,
I'm Dan.
and we are here to review Strangers Pray at Night. Uh, I don't know how to start this really. I guess I'll start by just saying
Yeah, we can talk a little bit about the first one, I guess.
yeah, my thoughts on the first of all, the first one came out in 2008, so this
Yeah,
is
it's been a while.
yeah, so this is a sequel coming out 10 years after the original. And granted, that seems to be like a thing these days now. It seems like we get sequels later and later and later.
Well, yeah, I mean, compared to Blade Runner, this is positively on time.
Yeah.
But they just sort of released a sequel that I don't know if anyone asked for, and it doesn't seem like any time has passed between the movies. They don't address anything.
No.
Because really, it's a sequel in that it's the same people doing, we assume, the same people doing the killing, or at least the same masks.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the only tie-in to the first movie, is the strangers themselves.
Yeah, I know it has like a cult following. I know there's fans of it out there. I don't really think anyone was asking for a sequel
No.
though, because it wasn't one. It's not like a Saw or like a Hostel or something around or a Paranormal Activity where it's like you could build a franchise on this.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I liked about the first movie was that it just seemed kind of like a one and done. Not something we necessarily needed a sequel to, but for some reason, 10 years later, now we all of a sudden got a sequel.
Yeah.
The first half is not interesting. Nothing happens. And then the second half is kind of where it picks up. But unfortunately, we had to get through that first half to get to the second half. And that first half, to me, really kills the mood and the pacing of this whole movie.
That's the thing, is the pacing, because the first one, I mean, we have to compare it to the first one, even though most people would remember it. Yeah, it doesn't have much to do with it, but it is technically a sequel.
Mm-hmm.
And again, we like the first one, and the first one was a slow movie, but that slowness was part of the tension, because basically these killers, whoever they are, and we really in neither movie do we learn much about them. But these killers, that's what they do, is they're basically having fun.
Mm-hmm.
They're torturing these people, without actually torturing them.
Yeah.
It's psychological. So they're kind of playing with them. They'll appear, they'll attack, and then they'll disappear for a while. And it's all in where are they? What are they going to do? Are they coming now? Are they coming later? And, that's sort of the point. And that happens in this one.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is it's a much more wide open space.
Mm-hmm.
And so you get a sense of, even though there's three of them, they can't be everywhere at once. And there are just points where nothing is happening. They're out there somewhere, but it could be a mile away.
Yeah.
And it's not like the first movie where it's all taking place in and around this house. Yeah, it could be the other side of the house, but how far is that really?
Yeah. Most of this one takes place in a big trailer park, basically.
Yeah, so in the first one, you can't see them, but they're coming, and they're right over there. You just can't see them.
Yeah.
In this one, it's I know they're probably coming for me, but if I keep my eyes and ears open, I might see and hear them coming.
Yeah.
Because they got to cross a field first.
Yeah.
So it's I'm not saying there's no effective scares or moments in it, but it's just a sense of the first one was claustrophobic. This one, it almost seems like they're not trying hard enough.
Yeah, stylistically, they're both completely different.
Yeah.
Because where the first one, like I said, is a slow burn, kind of more of a psychological, not really a jump scare fest or anything like that. This one is kind of the opposite of that. Now there are jump scares in the film. I'm not going to say there's a lot of them, but there's far more than there were in the first one. And some of the jump scares of this one aren't very much earned. They do kind of one of them definitely it was the whole quiet, and then someone, hey, what you doing?
Yeah.
That whole thing. There's definitely one or two of those in there, and that's the stuff that really pisses me off when it comes to horror movies.
Yeah. The other thing is that this one incorporates music into it, which, I mean, the music is good, but
I was gonna say that's actually one of my positives of the film is that the soundtrack is very good, and the synthesized score that the movie has is really good to the point where I don't know if the first Strangers had a score to it, if if it did, I don't remember it, unfortunately.
Yeah, I don't remember it either.
But this score is very good. It's very
Yeah.
reminiscent of like John Carpenter,
Yeah.
like back in the
like the original
80s,
Halloween.
And it's a very good score that is used somewhat effectively, but somewhat not.
Right, like when I said earlier, this one's a little more set piecey.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's kind of what it is because the music, it can it can enhance a scene when something is happening.
Yeah,
and that's usually when it's playing. To be fair, but the rest of the movie when it's all quiet, that was what the first movie was, and that's when you're building the tension.
Yeah.
This one, like the music is effective, but then it undermines all that tension too.
Yeah, it does.
Because one of the best scenes in the movie is one that's not really about horror. There's a scene where there's a big fight between one of the killers and one of the victims, I guess you call them, in a pool, and it's set to like Bonnie Tyler's Total Eclipse of the Heart, and it's a glorious scene. Like there's stuff going on, but like the fight, is tension because they're both in the pool, they're both kind of slowed down, and they're going underwater, and it's clear that like even though the killer is bigger than the other guy, the water, affects him more because he's heavier, and so like there's a sense that like it could kind of go either way. And the song is playing, and they do the cool thing where like you go underwater and the sound stops, and then it comes up and it is playing again, and it was done so well. On the other hand, at no point was I afraid during it.
Yeah.
Whereas in the first movie, it was very quiet. Again, we don't remember if there's music. Maybe there was, but if it was very low key. A lot of the movie was actually very silent, and like that enhanced this mood of like I don't know what's coming.
Yeah. Whereas
in this one, as cool as that scene really was, it's also like, well, the music is playing, and when the music stops, I know the scene's over. So,
but yeah, like you mentioned, like that pool scene. Like that pool scene is the best scene in the entire film, in my opinion. And it comes like right at like the last like 30 minutes of the film, and that's kind of my problem with this film is like the last 30 minutes of this film are actually really fucking good. And I really, really enjoy the last like 25 to 30 minutes of this film. It's unfortunately like I wish the whole movie could have been this.
Yeah.
Because the build up to that is not very satisfying and is very slow paced and at times very boring.
It kind of feels like if not it was supposed to be a completely different movie, then it's a mashup of a couple of different ones. Because that part at the end, which is better than the first half of the movie, but it feels like a different movie. Because I don't want to say it's like an action film, but again, it's a very frenetic thing. There's stuff happening. There's chases. There's fights between the characters. Whereas the first part of the movie, they were clearly trying to reenact the first one with the slow pace and the quiet tension. But this director just didn't do it the same as the first one.
Yeah, you could have swapped these characters out with any other characters.
Like not even franchise characters, just. You could have made 3 random killers.
Like my point is like if you take these 3 mass psychos out, put in any random other mass psychos, you got the Purge.
Yeah,
you got a Purge film.
Absolutely.
You could have easily made this a Purge film.
Or you could have made it 3 hillbillies, and you've got Texas Chainsaw Massacre without the chainsaw.
You could have fucking thrown Leatherface and fucking Chop Top or something in there. It could have been like Texas Chainsaw, Texas, Trailer Park Massacre.
Or the Trailer Park Has Eyes or something.
Yeah, something. That's the idea. Is that it's just such a bland thing where it's just like you could have honestly have taken anything and put it in here, and that's kind of what the movie feels like. It feels like as if this was originally written to be something completely different, and then someone saw it and was like, you know what, we own the Strangers, and that's semi-popular with like the horror fans. Like it's got a cult following. Let's just stick them in this. And we'll call it Strangers too.
Really the only reason to include them was either because of some sort of cult appeal, or like I said earlier, maybe they had a property rights thing and they had to throw them in to keep it.
Something.
But
there's a mixture of any average critic will watch this and be like, oh, there's a lot of stupid decisions made in this movie. And I'll give the film credit to the point of like they figure out a way and how are they going to get the just call someone on your cell phone thing. Because they set up in the thing that the fucking parents are like, look, like before we take her to boarding school, we would like one night where like the kids aren't on their phones. So they confiscate the phones from the kids. And then the daughter runs off, so they send the boy after her. And then they decide to go look for both of them because they've been missing for a while.
For a little bit.
And it's an abandoned trailer park, so it wouldn't be uncommon for them to not lock the door because obviously they didn't think anyone was going to break in there. So when someone shows up and then breaks all the phones because they left them sitting there, it completely makes sense. It's a stretch, but at least there's a reason behind it. They at least thought out a reason for it. Now, having said that, with the idea of this film having a lot of 80s music and being very stylistically like an 80s horror film that like would have been directed by, say, John Carpenter, why not just make the film take place in the 80s? Because that easily would have gotten rid of the whole...
Because now there are no cell phones.
That easily would have gotten rid of the idea of, why isn't someone to call on a cell phone? Because there wouldn't be any cell phones in the 80s. Granted, now... I have a feeling this film might have actually originally been written like that, maybe. But then when they decided to make it a sequel to The Strangers,
to make it a sequel, it has to, I don't know.
But there's definitely dumb decisions in the movie. The people make dumb decisions, especially the teenagers. The two teenagers make dumb decisions.
Which, they're teenagers, but I don't know. It's one of the, we were having this discussion. Part of the thing that I don't like about the movie is just the number of times that they don't fight back. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying in some sort of situation someone's coming at me with a weapon that I'm going to be, Mr. Green Beret and I'm going to, stand up and be brave. Mm-hmm. But I am saying I'm taking some panic swings.
Yeah.
Okay? Anything.
There are some scenes in this film that you could either watch and you could find either funny or you could find potentially terrifying. Right. You could go one of ways. And I think some of those specific scenes weren't executed very well. Like the scene where someone is injured in the truck and the killer comes in and sits next to him and they can't move because they're injured and the killer just casually starts tuning the radio to a station he likes before he goes in for the kill. Like that scene on paper sounds like it could be very very eerie, very disturbing if you film it the right way. But unfortunately in that particular moment, the way they shot it and the just decisions they made with it, it came off more goofy than disturbing.
The thing is, when you see it, you understand what is supposed to be disturbing about it and how it could be and probably should be. Yeah. But it's just a matter of they're trying a little bit too hard. Is what it seems like.
So what I'm saying is when you got something like that where it's not done right and you could tell it's not done right, but then you get something like we mentioned earlier, like the pool scene. You sit there and wonder how could the same director have done the pool scene so brilliantly, but then did the fucking van scene with the radio so poorly?
But the thing is, I kind of know how. Because, again, to compare it to the first movie, which we have to, in the first movie, and I know you talked about this, was some of the eeriest stuff in the first movie was when we, the audience, see the killers walking around. Yeah. Not even doing stuff in the background, just standing there, staring at the main characters, or, maybe they're just fiddling with something in the background. But we see them there, the main characters don't, and then, the camera angle changes or something blocks the view, and then they're just gone. Because in that scene, they're there, again, toying with them. They're just enjoying this. They're like, I'm here, they don't see me, and, that's creepy to us, because it's how many times have I been standing in my house, back to the hallway, back to the room. There could be someone behind me, I don't know, because these people don't know. That's what makes it creepy. But the thing was, what made it creepy to the audience then is also that the camera wasn't focusing on it. We were watching the main character do what they're doing, and then just in the background, you see this happening. In this movie, they tried to get that. There were very clear moments where they thought they were doing the same thing, except that the camera focused on it.
The first half of the film, you could tell they're trying to do Strangers again. And it's a sequel, so that's what you kind of expect. But when you get to that last 30 minutes of this film, it's this is what it should have been. Granted, it would have been drastically different from the first film, but sometimes when you're doing a horror film and you're doing a sequel 10 years after the first one, maybe that's kind of what you needed. It was something completely different.
Yeah, sure.
So when you get to that last 30 minutes or 25 minutes of the film, when they do start fighting back, my God, is it satisfying.
Yeah. That's when it became better.
Yeah. And we were in a theater that, like I said, wasn't exactly sold out, was pretty packed. And there was just a whole fucking slew of fucking people that as soon as, that was as soon as they started fighting back, man, did you hear some fucking woos? Did you hear some cheers? And that was the thing where I'm like, watch this, and I'm like, okay, like, the last 30 minutes of this film is completely worth it. It is very good.
You mentioned earlier the kind of backstory of, like, the girl is supposedly a problem child, and, like, it's implied that she did something big that, like, the parents are very unhappy about, and, like, we're worried about you, and they're sending her to boarding school because something happened. Unfortunately, the only information we get is one of them says, the bad grades in the skipping class. And, like, apparently, that's why they're sending her to boarding school. Now, forgetting for a minute that obviously it doesn't matter what with the, the deaths and the living through a murder spree. But, like, you're sending your kid to boarding school for some bad grades and skipping class? That was half the kids in our high school, man. They didn't go to boarding school. They weren't even bad kids.
My favorite thing is I leaned to you also during it. I said, she's a troubled teen because she, A, has black hair, B, has black eyeliner, C, has a Ramones shirt on with one sleeve all the way down to expose one shoulder. And she's also got a flannel hoodie wrapped around her stomach, and she's got torn up jeans while still wearing leggings underneath.
Yeah,
I was just like basically, like, the idea of, like, in fucking, like you say, hey, picture a troubled teen. And that's exactly what you would picture.
But in this case, very specifically, a troubled teen from the 90s.
From the 90s, yeah.
Because, like, the music was from the 80s, the trailers were decorated like it's the 70s, and the one kid anyway, was dressed like she's from the 90s. This movie didn't know what it wanted to do.
This movie was trying to be several different different decades, and didn't fail to capture any of them.
So, like, again, now, I mean, again, I acknowledge it doesn't really matter because of what they end up going through, but A, obviously the people making the movie knew that, so why'd they include it and not have it pay off? I wouldn't harp on it if it was for the fact that it's specifically brought up and presented to us, and then it doesn't matter. Nothing, like, it doesn't evolve into anything. It doesn't lead to, like, a character moment. It doesn't work into the plot in any way other than that's why they're leaving their house. And that's why they're in this place at this time. And then it's like, okay, so that's why you're in this place at this time. That's a stupid reason. Bad parents. Deal with your kids some other less dumb way. Like, you're the reason everyone died, thanks. Like, I don't know what the movie wants me to say here. And it's like, as much as I kind of wanted to learn maybe a little bit about the strangers, if you're going to make a sequel, maybe I didn't need to know this about the family. Just make it, hey, we're going on a trip, aunt and uncle, it's like a cheap thing for us because they just let us stay here. Boom. That's all I needed. That's the only reason that I needed for them to be there at that time. But you had to go and build all this other stuff that doesn't matter. It doesn't mean anything. Like, why did you give it to me? Why did you give me that information? Well, keep it to yourself. I don't know.
Overall, like I said, it's not a great sequel, mostly because it really has nothing to do with the first movie, except for the fact that we have the same three serial killers. But other than that, it's not a great sequel, but it's good enough to the point where I'd say, okay, this is a decent sequel. Like, I guess, like, had you never even known the first one existed,
it would be fine.
You might see this film and might be interested in checking out what that first one is like, maybe. I don't know. This movie's only about an hour and a half, and the first hour is very slow paced, not very well done, but that last half hour, like I said, half hour, 25 minutes, is very good, is very stylish, is very fun to watch, and very fast-paced and very good overall, that last 25 to 30 minutes. But unfortunately, it's that first hour that just lags behind and just doesn't live up and doesn't earn, in my opinion, that last 25 to 30 minutes. So overall, I would say this is not a bad film. I don't think it's a bad film.
No, not at all.
I wouldn't necessarily say this is a very good film either. But that's the thing. It's like hard to say, is this worth spending your money to go see in the theaters? I'd say maybe if you saw the first one and you're a big fan of the first one and you want to see what they came up with for a sequel 10 years later, I guess I would say, yeah, maybe it's worth your money. If you've never seen the first one and this is the first one you're seeing, I would definitely say you could kind of skip it. So overall, I'm going to go with a 6 out of 10 for The Strangers.
Yeah.
Pray at Night. I think it's slightly above average, but it's not enough for me to say, yes, I recommend you go see this movie and pay the money for it.
I mean, we already talked about, the bad decisions and the questionable execution on so much of the movie. And the only, specific thing that I will say is, for, the first movie we mentioned several times, it was kind of slow, but that's because the pacing was deliberate. It was just a constant build of tension and horror and not knowing what's going to happen, but knowing that it will and it's going to be bad. And it just built and built. And so it was kind of slow, but that's because they wanted you to feel it. This movie is only an hour and a half. And when we walked out of the theater of a 9 p.m. showing, and it was only slightly after 10:30, you told me that before I even looked at the clock, and I didn't believe you. Because it felt so much longer than that.
Yeah.
This is barely an hour and a half movie, and I felt like I was in there for 2 hours.
It drags.
It drags. And again, that part at the end didn't necessarily drag, but it felt like so much longer before that. And so I just assumed it's because it was the climax of the movie that part felt normally paced.
Yeah.
But no, actually, that was very little of the movie, and it's just that the rest of it felt so much longer. And again, in the first movie, I don't remember how long it was, but it didn't bother me at all because it earned it and it made sense. And in this movie, it just didn't. It didn't execute itself well. Mm-hmm. And I'm actually going to say the exact same score of 6 out of 10. Right. I will say there's probably more of it that I enjoyed than I didn't, but it's not anything that I'm going to say you need to go out of your way to see. And even if you have seen the first one, that's just, I think that might actually make you more disappointed. If you've never seen the first one, you might be interested in this. You might get something out of it. Because of the soundtrack and the couple of, decent set-piece scenes, there is something to be gained from, the big screen experience. Yeah. But you shouldn't pay full price for it like we did.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, so that's gonna do it for this review. To recap, we both give Strangers Pray at Night a 6 out of 10. Definitely say that it has some good aspects, but not enough for us to recommend that you go out and pay fucking $12 or $15 to go see it.
Yeah.
So that's going to do it for this. I'm going to say please thumbs up the video if you like it. Please subscribe to our channel if you'd like to see more of our reviews. And please leave a comment and let us know what you guys thought of Strangers Pray at Night. It's just such a stupid thing to say. I just want to say The Strangers too. I don't know why I'm not doing it. But anyway, I'm trying to be official, I guess. I don't know. I'm not sure what we'll be back with. I know Pacific Rim 2 comes out this month. Something else came out this month too.
I feel like something comes out next week that we were maybe not excited for, but planning to see, and I don't remember what it was.
I don't remember what it was either. It was something we saw at the trailers too. Because I remember I looked at you and was like, "Oh, that's next week."
Yeah.
Oh, Tomb Raider.
Oh, that
was it. And I don't even know if we did say we wanted to see that, but.
Yeah, but we did mention that's coming out soon.
Yeah, all right. Well, anyway, we may be back with Tomb Raider. We might be back. If not with that, we'll probably be back with Pacific Rim, the next Pacific Rim. Those are probably my guess one of those two. This guy didn't want to go see Hurricane Heist, which I don't blame him. But,
much as we joke.
About it. But once Hurricane Heist goes to probably our discounted theater, which I'm hoping, depending on how much money it makes this weekend, it might be sooner rather than later. So we'll be back with possibly Hurricane Heist, Tomb Raider, or Pacific Rim. Something. We'll be back. See you later.